Welcome to the Uncomfortable channel. God showed me a vision early hours this morning, and I'm here today to deliver this warning. This is to do with adults, specifically young adults, within the adult care system. What God showed me was incredibly troubling. And I strongly urge anyone who has a family member that's in one of these care homes, specifically a female family member. It could also be male, but what was shown to me, it was a female. Be very wary of the staff members that work in these care homes. What God showed me was that a particular staff member is taking advantage, or was taking advantage, of a particular female patient. Now, this young woman was no younger than 18 or 19, but could easily be in their 20s. And at the older age, early 30s. But she looked between late teens, like 18, 19, up until mid-20s. Now, when I initially saw what I saw, I thought it was just two people, a man and a woman, having consensual sex. That is what I initially saw. It's only when I started to see the full picture, I realized that it was not consensual. And I don't even know how to explain this part. And if I'm being honest, I'm not even comfortable saying this, but I have to say it because that's what God showed me. When I looked properly, I saw what was going on. There was a man on top of a young woman, and he was having sex with her head. And I don't mean forcibly forcing his penis into her mouth. I mean, there was literally a hole around the crown of her head, or near towards her forehead. There was a gaping hole, and the man was repeatedly thrusting his penis into her head. And then there was another man who looked like a staff member who was holding her down so that she couldn't move. And this young woman, she's disabled. I don't think she has the ability to speak. She has some form of both a mental disability and a physical disability that prohibits her from speaking, from communicating what's happening to her, and she physically cannot fight someone off her. It's almost like her arms or legs are fixed a particular way where she has no control over her body. So she's solely dependent on others doing everything for her. She doesn't even have function over her own mouth, over her eyes. The girl who I saw was a black girl, a young black woman. Brown to dark skin complexion. Now this is what was shown to me. I do not know what this girl, this young woman looks like in real life, but that's what was shown to me. The man, the staff member that was holding her down, he had long dreadlocks, medium to long dreadlocks that went down his back, and it was jet black and it was tied back in one. He had facial hair, both a beard and a moustache. He was of a slim to average build. I cannot make out how tall he was because he was holding her down on the bed whilst the man completely and utterly violated her. And this is not the first time that this has happened. And when I say that, this is the first time that I was shown this. Because I said before, this literally happened early hours in the morning. This was shown to me. But so when I say this is not the first time, I mean, this is not the first time this has happened to her. That she's been raped, that she's been molested. There's an arrangement between that staff member and the man that was raping her. I have no idea who the man is that was raping her. I know that he was also slim. He was more on the slim side than a man of average build. Slim to skinny. He appeared that if he was to stand up, he would be fairly tall. Though I couldn't see his full face, he had a little bit of facial hair, not the same as the man with the dreadlocks, but he had a little bit of facial hair. But if you was to step a certain distance, you may not notice it. And that poor young woman, she was suffering so much. And even though she physically couldn't communicate the pain and the hurt and the violation that she was going through, even though she had no control over her eyes, she couldn't even scream. You could see the pain in her eyes. She was fully aware of what was happening to her in that moment. There was even moments where I could tell she herself was trying with all her might to lift her body up so that she could pull herself away from these two men, but her body would not allow her to do so. Her disability restricted her greatly. And then the man that was raping her over and over and over again, once he ejaculated and he was done with her, the staff member slowly picked her up off the bed and then carefully placed her into her wheelchair. And then whisked her away, which I could only assume was back to her hospital bed, her room. anyone who has a family member in a care home, I want you to investigate everything that's going on with that family member, especially if it's a woman. Especially if it's a woman. Investigate, check up on them, find out what's going on, and insist that that care home does a pregnancy test on them. I don't know who this is meant to be for. I can only tell you what was shown to me. That's all I can speak on, is what was shown to me. If they refuse to do the pregnancy test, keep insistent. If you have to take matters into your own hands by going to the authorities, then do so, because something is not right. What I saw was truly disturbing. And this is not something that's even comfortable to say. Even right now, my legs are shaking. And it's hard to explain it. Though it wasn't me that was being violated, it was almost like I could feel her pain or feel the disgust of what she felt about the way this man was violating her body, and that there was nothing that she could do about it. If there's even an inkling in your mind that what I'm saying is about someone that you know, seriously look into that. Pray to God, talk to God about it. If there's a staff member that your spirit is very wary of, do not ignore that. If that means that you have to remove them from that care home and place them to another care home, if that means that you have to bring them home, providing that you have the facilities necessary to take care of them, do that. If you have to get the local authorities involved, do that. Be very careful, especially in these times. Be very careful who you allow your family members who are vulnerable, who can't take care of themselves, to be around. Because though we do have good doctors, good nurses, and other professionals that work in the care system, in the medical system, you do have some very devious ones. You do have men and even some women that purposely take these jobs because they know that these jobs entail engaging with vulnerable people on a regular basis. They prey on those who are in those homes, and they know that they don't have family that come to visit them, so there'll be no one to follow up or check in or question what's happening to that person. What I saw sent me in chills, and it literally made me sick to my stomach. Even as I'm speaking, I can feel the tears forming in my eyes. I looked at that man in disgust and like, how can you do that to her? How could you be so wicked and evil to do that to her? You're meant to look after her, you're meant to protect her, and that's what you do to her. Both of them. Father God, I did as you instructed me today. I delivered the message. Now let your will be done. There is something that I needed to add, which I didn't mention in the first part of this video. It's a physical description of the man who was raping the young woman. His hair was cut very low. He had black hair. His hair was cut very low. Not low as in skinhead, but low enough where you could see his scalp through his hair. He may be someone who's experiencing some hair loss, but I can't say for certain. But that's something that I did want to point out, and I didn't mention it before. This man has black hair. His hair is cut really low to the point where you can see his scalp, but not completely. So if it's not cut really low, he is someone that has experienced some level of hair loss, especially around the crown of his head, which there appear to be the thinnest out of his entire head. That part seemed to be the thinnest. So I just wanted to say that even if this message, this warning is not for you and your particular family members that's in a care home or in a hospital even, you still need to pray. Pray to God for their covering and their protection. Because just because it isn't your family member's situation today, there's no guarantee that it won't be their situation tomorrow. Because let me say this, monsters are everywhere. They can be anywhere. They have no face, no gender, no race. They could be a man, they could be a woman, they could be black, they could be white, they could be Asian. They could be young and they could be old. Don't underestimate anyone when it comes to evil. Evil has no face. Evil is just everywhere. So pray for your family members that are in care homes and pray for their safety. Pray for blood cover and protection over them. And don't just pray one time. Pray every single day for them. Because when you leave them after you visit them, you have no idea what they're going through. And this is something that just dropped in my spirit. I would also advise to put a hidden camera in their room. That is all.